Hello. I don't know if anybody's watching. Oh, there we go. It looks like I'm live. Hello, it's Cade with Retainer Designer. I am doing a Hilgers appliance TRex today. So you're gonna see me do it almost start to finish. So hopefully I can get it done in an hour. If not, maybe there'll be a part 2 later on. So I am continuing to set up now. If I can find, I got my son's or my wife's old phone that I've put in. Oh, there we go. Looks like we are live there. So you are kind of dealing with me setting up right now. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Again, for those who are tuning in, it's the Hilgers TRex appliance. Many of you may have done it. Hundreds of them. Maybe you've never done one before. So hopefully it'll help out. I haven't done one in at least a TRex in, I don't know, a year or so. It's been a while. So I hope you can bear with me. Like I said, I'm doing the start to finish, and we'll see. Alright, I'm connecting, and it should be connecting that. Alright, so I got this angle, and that looks good. I'm changing my angles. I changed my background. Hopefully that helps with some weird artifacts we were getting with the other light. Try this light. There we go. Alright. And we got this camera right here. We can probably turn the brightness down on that a little bit, probably. And then we got this angle, which is very, you can see all my stuff. Turn on the brightness on that. The laundry is going in the background, so that's probably what you hear. If you hear something going on, it's the laundry. I don't want to turn it off. I don't want to make the wife mad. Alright, so hopefully you hear me. I have a chat going on over here somewhere. There's the chat. I'm going to say something in there. Hello. Hello. Okay. Alright, so now while everybody's loading on to here, I am going to start. Alright, so hopefully I blocked out all the HIPAA information here, but this is the Hilgers appliance. This doctor asked for a TRex, which is not shown on here. So the actual only difference between, so you have a pendulum, you have a Pendex, and you have a TRex, and they're all related to each other. So I've printed up this. This is for my EasyRx account. This is a TRex, and so the difference, what the doctor drew, they actually asked for a TRex here, but what the doctor drew was actually just a Pendex, which is a pendulum plus expander. Alright, so a pendulum will not have this expander that's drawn here or here. So if you think pendulum expander, that's a Pendex. Alright, so a TRex, I have no idea what a T stands for, transverse or transitioning or something. It has these little arms right here. You see these little arms? That's what is about the only thing that makes it a TRex. There's a little extra 036 arms that are right here. This is your pendulum spring, which is, and I'll show in a second, it's TMA wire, which is a special wire we use for pendulums. I don't know what other labs use, but we use this TMA wire to make this pendulum wire. This is all 036 wire for all these rests, including this little. So what makes it a TRex is this is soldered to the band, which means this cannot distalize until this is cut. So what the doctor's going to do is going to cement this in with these having the potential of distalizing. So this is going to swing back this way and distalize these molars. Alright? So what the doctor is going to do is going to expand first, get the width he or she needs, and then when that's done, they'll just cut these wires right here, and these wires, these distalizing wires, will take over. So that is a TRex versus a pendulum. A pendulum, like what's drawn here, will just be, it'll just start distalizing straight from the beginning. And they can expand at the same time. So it's doing both the expanding and the distalizing at the same time. This one allows one to be done before the other. So that's it. So let's get started. Okay. So I did get some bands here. So let's draw this appliance. So I'm going to put bands around these teeth, which were supplied by the doctor. I just kind of make these little marks. Oh, it got nice and quiet in here. Okay, so doctor wants a rest here. Here. Actually, I'm going to look at the drawing. Sometimes he chooses the direction of the rest. Oh, by the way, we don't have a guest today. I didn't schedule one. I'm kind of getting lazy. Also, Steve Zaros, I think, is on a trip or something. So it's just me and you. So if you have any questions, I'll be checking the chat right here. And seeing if it works. Let's see. This should be up and running. Maybe I'm not live like I thought. Somebody chat and tell me if they're live or not. This is saying the stream is offline. Oh, it's live now. Control room. For watching. Alright. Okay, cool. There we go. So, there's the chat. I had the wrong chat open. Look at that. What do you know? I made a mistake. Surprise, everybody. Rockfulu88, hi. Oh, there's Jay Tyler. Hi, Cade. Your camo angles look good. Alright. Thank you, Jay. Okay, so, back to it. Jay's probably done a few of these, so he may have some very important things, so keep an eye on the chat. He may have some very good tips with this. So, oh, I was looking at what the doctor drew. Okay, these are pretty standard. The rest going from the mesial. You cannot see that. So the rest coming from the mesial. This gives a little room in this area to be able to distalize. Also, I'll be cutting. That sounds proper. I'll be cutting these teeth. Alright. There's that. Can't forget the pendulum wire. Alright. So, let's do a different color for the pendulum. So we know that this wire is different than the rest. Okay. Also, here's the acrylic. I probably should have done that. Let me change the colors of that. It's always good to have different colored map markers. I steal these from my kids. They don't need them. They draw too much stuff anyway. I'm kidding. Art is very important to kids, especially if you want them to take over this business later on in life. So it's kind of like a big, huge Nance button if you've done a Nance. The acrylic on this is pretty easy. The hard part is all these little wires are sticking out that can snag. So I'll draw a little square in here, and that is my little expander. See how narrow this palette is? You can see why they want to expand first, then distalize. That, look, here's the numbering system. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 3s, there's the 3 peeking out right there. There's the 3 peeking out right there. So they need to create this much space in between these two teeth. That is pretty crazy if you think about it. You know what I mean? They got to fit this tooth in between these two teeth, so it's got to expand. So they're going to slide this tooth back to make, and then slide that back, then slide that back, then pull this tooth in. Same thing with this. You can see that tooth right there. And they're going to slide this molar back, slide this 5 bicuspid back, this 4 bicuspid, and then make space in there. And of course, there's still not enough space, so you can see why they want space. Open up first, then distalize. So as you see, hey Greg Malone, I make more money by watching this. You're welcome. I'm glad it's oh Greg, oh you're here. Excelente, Avendaza Dental. Very cool. I'm glad this is going to help y'all. Hopefully, again, it won't take too long. Again, I haven't done this in years, but let me set up my little grinding area. It's dirty, but hold on just a second. Okay, sorry guys. Oh. Kind of cleaning up so it doesn't look too bad. So you're not distracted by the mess. We had a huge order go out yesterday. We haven't cleaned up from it yet. The camera over. Hopefully everybody can see me. What I like to use for putting bands on. So these were provided by the doctor. And so I know they fit the model. So I'm not going to have to be too careful as if I'm putting the band myself using the tools and sizes of bands. But I need to make sure the structure of the tooth is complete. I don't have to do that on this. Plus, this doctor puts very tight bands. So they've already worn spaces. So I got a little tiny ball right here. I think it's a number 2 or something like that. What I do is, like I said, I don't have to be too careful with this. I know the bands fit the tooth. I just got to get it to fit the tooth on here. Meaning, I know it fits the tooth on the mouth. I just got to get it to fit the tooth here. There we go. Got to snap down. Quick work of that. Alright, so hopefully you can see this. What I'm doing is, I'm putting the ball on the next adjacent tooth only. I do not want to put it on the tooth that the band's on there. Guys. That was probably super loud. Alright. Now that I fixed the audio, and see, I'm just running this shaft part of this ball burr along the actual tooth, and then the thickness of the ball actually digs underneath, getting rid of all that gum line. And so what I would actually do is, if I was fitting the band, I would leave, when I draw this, it actually makes two lines. Can you see that? One that's on the tooth, one that's on the tissue. I'll get rid of the one that's on the tissue. Okay. See if that band fits. Yep, I see a little ledge that's still there. Could even take a knife like this, scrape it off. So what I like about these rosewood handle knives that I got, I like to, it doesn't bend the band, it helps keep the integrity. So if anything, it digs into the wood of the knife as you try to place it. So this is a little bit tighter. Actually, I've done enough with the burr. I'm going to move to the other station. Alright. I'm back over here. Let me go turn that off. Okay, so I've got the first band on. It went on pretty easy. I've obviously got some ledges in here, so I'm going to try to tease this off. I have to be a little careful. Sometimes it tends to break the tooth off, and then I hate that so much. So bad. Alright, one thing I like to do is my famous Freddy Krueger knife. I'll just scrape those ledges there. This was actually beat up just a tad when it was getting out of the mouth. And so I'm going to straighten it just a bit. Sorry, I'm trying to get some good angles here for you. Man, that's still tight. Look at the. Oh yeah, that's why. They've given me a 13, size 13 on this side, size 14 on that side. So there must be a slight tooth discrepancy in size. Yes, Rakunolofofa 88. It's live. We're live. So you can ask questions about this appliance or anything else that you want. I'll try to answer them or show you. There we go. Getting the band down. It's about, it feels like that's about as far as it goes. This is a band pusher. You can get these from your local orthodontist. They usually retire these after a while. It's got a scaler on this end and a little band pusher on this end, and it's got little serrations on it so it actually grips the edge of the band. And you're trying not to push and fold it in until you get it down, and then you can fold it and adapt it to the band. Alright, so I got those seated, got the bands on. So I need to hold them in place during this construction process. So I'm going to use my Z-base to do that with. And Z-base is by Harvest Dental. Usually your local dental supply place will have Zap It or something. And then this is my little accelerator drippy droppy thing. Alright, so I'm just going to attach. So you see what I did there? If you can see that, I've actually spanned the Zap It between this tooth and the band. So it's going to hold that band in place. I'm going to give that a few seconds to set up. It takes about 3 seconds to set up. Give it a good 10 seconds for a full setup. Since I'm getting going in this, I'd better buy a kit of the bands or just order an assortment of the most popular sizes. Yeah, Greg, it's better if it's better if the doctor provides the bands. Because you know they fit. When they seated the band and they send it with their pressure, you know this band fits this mouth. They've already fitted it in the mouth. But you can buy your own. I would buy a kit, which does come with an assortment. I'm about to grab my kit real quick. So actually, this kit was given to me by another doctor who said I'm free to use it for all the other ones. It's one that they don't use anymore, and this is what a band kit looks like. So this is what they did in the patient's mouth. Let me grab my camera here. So this is, you can see the different sizes of bands ranging from these little tiny things, to size 32, big old honking tooth. So this is a band kit. And you need 4 of them because there's 4 molars, upper left, upper right. So you can see here it tells you this is the upper left. I don't know what PB means. 018 is the bracket size. They don't use 018 anymore, so they actually gave me these. So always hit up your orthodontist when they're gonna throw away some stuff. It might be some stuff that you can use. Looks pretty dark, but 018, don't disregard this headgear tube, but that little square hole right there, see if I can get that in focus. That little square, that's 018 by 018. So that tells the doctor they can only put a 018 is the thickest wire that they can put in, 0.018. So this is here, 15. There we go. Okay. So the reason I got this band kit out, okay, so answering your questions about the assortment of sizes, you see how some of these have, I'll zoom out just a little bit, how some, that zoomed in. Some of these squares are bigger than some other ones. So in this size, now different band manufacturers have different numbering. Some start with 33 and go to 36, which will correlate roughly with the same sizes, but anyway, you'll see how some are small holes. These are the least used, and some are large, and those are the most used. There's a chart. I just saw it. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because I got another one of these to make, and I need to buy some bicuspid bands. And I wasn't wanting to. This is the Ortho Lab Mark from Leone America. You get it. Make sure you sign up for it. It's a really good magazine to get. We will be using these pop springs in this appliance when we put the acrylic in. I'm trying to get to the bands here. I probably already passed them. No, I'm getting closer. Alright, you can see the size. So, you can see they got the same sizing. This is GAC bands underneath here, and this is Leone bands. But you can see your kit you buy, looks like their kit's $133 for one arch. And you can see, 16 through 20 is the average tooth size. So there's a bell curve going on here. Let's see if I can get that under there. Alright, there's a bell curve going on here. So, again, these are rarely used, but when you buy a kit, you'll get more of these bands than these bands, as you can see in here. So, hopefully that answers your question. Donna, for you. You don't make no money watching this. I make no money producing this, so we're even there. Alright, I'm going to switch the camera back to the grinding place. Okay. I'll need to remove these lugs or these cleats that are on here because I need a smooth surface to solder to. So I just have a Mizzy heatless wheel, little stone wheel, and that's what I use to remove the metal cleats on the lingual of these bands. Alright, there we go. Got that a little hot. It tarnished on me. Cool. Alright, so now why do I have these bands out? Well, it so happens that they have the sheaths that we need. Now, if I knew that these bands were exactly 1 for 1, I would just trade it out where I don't need to take these off. You can't see nothing because I didn't change the camera yet. So these are the sheaths. Take this off here. Hopefully you can see that. These are the sheaths. Hopefully you can see there's a little square tube thing. I call them lingual sheaths. And this is where that special TMA wire is going to be inserted and then push onto the band. So I need to take this bracket off of this band and solder it on the other one. So I'm going to get one of each side. This is size 19. I'm going to get one of these I have plenty of. Yeah, not 20. I have a ton of those. Alright. Size 20. Here we go. So those are just joining in. We are making a Pendulum appliance, a Hilgers appliance. A version called a TRex. So I am going to remove these lingual sheaths, which need to go right here. So here is one that's going to go there and one that's going to go there. So I'm just going to simply clip off. Simply. Of course it doesn't work that well. Alright, let me move to the grinding place. Alright, I'm back. So I have a disc here, and I'm just going to cut these out. There's a diamond coated disc, so it's going to cut pretty fast. I've got to be careful not to slice my fingers, especially live on camera. Alright, see how I did that? So there we go. So then, let me cut this out. I thought I'd be able to just cut that with the wire nippers pretty quick. Using that same Mizzy heatless wheel. Gotta be careful. I'm gonna get some pliers here. Gotta be careful. These get really, really, really hot. And it says Mizzy heatless wheel, but it, I don't know why, because it gets so hot. I guess I couldn't imagine what the hotter version would be. So I'm going to try and grind this down. There we go. Hot, 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 hot. If I was smart, I'd get a bowl of water, but those that have been watching this channel know I'm not very smart. And you get a bowl of water, you can dip it in. So if you ever find yourself where it's hard to hold on to these, or it's producing a lot of heat, you know, just get you a bowl of water or something. There we go. So you might be asking, why are you taking this off? Just buy some. Well, I don't have any. I didn't think to. You can buy just a bag of these lingual sheets, and then you can just go straight to soldering. You don't have to take them off. I just so happen to have that kit that was given to me. That have every one of them has these on there. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take it off with one band, put it on the other. And I thought, well, I can show y'all how I do this, and you know, if you ever need to do the same thing, you know you can. Transplanting attachments from one to another. And since I'm going to be soldering, it's good that I'm roughing up the lingual, or the inside of these sheaths. So don't lose them. Obviously, you notice I didn't have the suction on it. I didn't want it to be sucked down into the place. Okay. So I have my sheaths. I have amputated off of another band, and I'm going to do a transplant onto these bands. Again, you can buy lingual sheaths from a manufacturer, probably where you get your bands from. You could actually have them already placed on there. It's a little expensive. It's usually better for labs to buy just blank bands, no brackets, and just because it gets way expensive once you start putting these attachments on them. Alright, let's zoom in a little bit. Get my cameras up. Okay, so there's a little trick to this, and hopefully this turns out good on camera, because I do not want to look bad. But it's okay if it does. We all make mistakes, right? Alright, I'm getting my soldering stuff together. My flux. My heat shield. My silver solder, and my torch. This is all I have. So ideally, you know, you would build this, and then later on, or first thing, if you had a spot welder, you could just spot weld these sheaths onto this band, and that's all, or laser welder, or whatever you have. But if you don't have one of those, and you're like me, you don't have a fancy laser welder or puck welder, you can use this method. I have my little flux applicator. I'm going to put some flux on here. Also, make sure your bands are clean. That aids in getting this working right. Got my heat shield here. I'm going to heat shield this thing. So mainly what I'm doing is I'm protecting where I have attached this band. The Zap It is designed to be burned away. It's used in crown and bridge and casting and attaching bridges together, so you can cast them or wax them together. So it's castable, so it actually burns away cleanly. So I am going to, which produces less fumes than using super glue. Those of you may know what it's like to do this with super glue, or solder with super glue, and it sucks. You get it all fumes in your eyes and stuff. Also, I'm kind of protecting this tooth next to it. Okay. First things first. Let's see if I can get a couple angles in here. I'm going to draw a circle so I can keep coming back to the same circle. Alright, I'm going to have to rotate this to there. Okay. Focus in on there. Let's get it all side by side going on. Here, here. There, like that. Hopefully the camera doesn't fall. Okay. So that way you can see whatever angle I'm working with. So what I'm going to do first is put my eye protection on. And then I'm going to turn off a light. So the reason I turn off a light, and maybe you can see this. You can see my little flame I have going on. Now if I turn off a light, you can see that flame so much better. Light on, flame disappears. Light off, you can see the flame. So I'm using this little area right here as my heating zone. So I'm going to heat this tooth. I'm going to pre-apply solder to this band. Doesn't take much heat. Alright, so you can do the other side. Now I've actually turned down my flame. So it's usually that. But I've turned it down, kind of reduced the heat a little bit. These bands are really thin, real easy to burn. I'm going to switch hands here. Now, when you see bubbling like that, usually you got a little dirtiness in there. Not as clean as you want. So why am I doing this? I'll show you. I have some hemostats here. Again, you get these from your local orthodontist when they go to retire some of their equipment. They use these to put O-rings on the brackets. So I'm going to grab one of these. And these sheaths actually have a hook, some people call them a hook, on them. I'm going to grab that hook. Okay, take my flux, apply it to the bottom of this sheath here, all the way around. Y'all did not see me do that. Okay, so I've added some flux to the surface of this. Again, I'm gonna hope that this works as well as it does in my head. It's always like that. Hopefully it works. All right, I'm gonna get my little torch here. I'm going to heat the solder that's on the band while I'm holding this near, which will warm up due to reflection. And then once this gets molten again, I'm going to push this in to right where I want it. And then I'm going to let the solder solidify around it. Hold on, I'm getting a better grip on this thing here. There we go. So I'm pre-test fitting it. Okay, that's where it's going to go. I usually go right in the middle, but since this is a TRex, there's going to be a wire going right on the mesial of this, so I'm going to move it a little bit distal. The good thing about some of these sheaths, well, I'm having a hard time saying that today, that you can bend these little arms to fit better. Alright, I'm going in. Wish me luck. Pre-fit it. I think I've lost some flux off of there. Alright. I'm just going to slowly warm this solder up. Again, if you have a spot welder, you really don't have to worry about doing it this way. So I'm looking for that solder to get real shiny and spinny. There we go, I'm getting close. So I'm going to put this right there. Perfect. Not too perfect, it's tilted just a tad bit, but hopefully y'all can see that. See how I've kind of moved it on the distal side? Actually, I may heat that back up, see if I can slide it over some. Yeah, I may heat it up and try to slide it over. But you can see how when I pushed it into the solder, and the solder was nice and shiny, melty, I pushed it in, and since I had flux on the back of that sheath, it just attached itself. It just started spinning around the sheath also. Okay. I might leave it. It's one of those things where, you know, well, Jay, don't say I'm good yet until I jack this up. It's one of those things where I kind of don't want to fix it, but yet I kind of want to. Because by fixing it, sometimes you mess it up. Sometimes you just got to leave well enough alone. There we go. I'm trying to rotate it up. It came off. Oh, there we go. That worked out good. Yes. Alright, that fits. I like that so much better. Hopefully y'all can see that. Alright, let me turn on some lights here. So it is rotated a little bit. It's okay. The doctor can actually torque this pendulum spring a little bit, and that can actually put a rotation on this tooth. So, but I'd still need it room, because remember, we're going to put a wire right here. So let me attach this other one. Hopefully it does just as good as this first one. Alright, so I'm going to pre-fit it. I'm going to get this. So I like these model holders, even though you see me just fighting with this sucker. So I'm going to put that thing right there. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit of this off, so it doesn't hang out the back as bad. go. And I'll put a little bend on it. So I've curved it. Curve this just a tad also. Now I picked this technique up from the lab I used to work at, Jason Brown. I never knew you could do this. I always thought you had to absolutely have a spot welder, but when you go without, what is that? Mother's in necessities of is the mother of invention. When you don't have, you invent different ways of doing things. So let's go back to this camera angle. So I'm going to put my flux on the back of this. Again, this is going to make it more acceptable to solder. Okay. I've figured out my angle. I know exactly where to put my hand. So I got my pinky as a stabilizer. Okay. Turn off this light. Alright, here we go. So you see I'm just holding this next to the flame as I slowly heat this solder back up. The solder I've previously put on the band. There we go. See how it's getting shiny and spinny? It'll spin on you. So I'm going to slowly... You don't want to burn this sheath too bad. See, it's starting to get a little red hot. I get a little worried. So you just got to make sure it's parallel with the occlusion. Alright, let's get a good shot of this. Turn on the light again. So it's parallel with the occlusion. This way. See if you can get it. So you want it parallel with the occlusion as best as possible. Alright. So from the top, yeah, I have it here and here. So next, let's get to bending wires. You know what I have not done yet? When I prepped this, I did not do separator. So I have some JBC separator here. I'm going to, I see some voids, some bubbles in there, so I'm going to block out some of these voids and some of the rugae. If it's really sharp, really hard to see, you got to make sure you block it out, or else it'll hold it in. And usually you want to wax before you put separator on, or else the wax doesn't stick very good to the model. Yeah, Jay Tyler of Ortho Lab videos. Check out his. You want to see someone that's good? He is good. He has, I don't know how many more years experience. He's put out countless DVDs. So if you want some official training on this, make sure you go to ortholabvideos.com, I believe. Maybe, Jay, you could type the address in and you could order actual videos. If you're he's just now put out a new video for clear retainers that you can do in the office. So if you've got somebody, if you're a lab assistant, start to finish learning how to do clear aligners. So I'm going to put a little separator in here. Alright, so I want to put 2 coats, so I'm going to let this coat dry first. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the TRex part. I am going to turn on my steamer so that I can steam this off later so you can see it. I'm going to do that real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. So what I want to do, remember we're going to bend a wire right here. We're going to bend a wire right here and attach and solder it right there. We got to make sure that we don't block this path right here. So we're going to do that next. I'm going to switch the camera over to the grinding station, and we're going to grind a little bit of this off to make a little room for what we're going to attach on there. Obviously my lab is not very big. It didn't take me long to get over here. So I'm just going to take my wheel and lightly grind it. You got to be careful of the vibrations because this wheel can actually rock your band off. So you see it's nice and clean. Cleaning off all that flux. Oh, see, look, I broke my band. It's a little risky doing this, but I think it's going to give me a better solder joint in the end. Okay. Alright, so let's put this on here. We're using my fancy Z-base, or if you want to use super glue you can. The good thing is it breaks off cleanly, so it usually just goes right back where it went. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and try to reinforce this a little bit. Some zap it here and some zap it here. And let's put some accelerator on there. Cool. Y'all did not see any of that. Well, alright, I'm going to keep it a secret then. What I did is I pretty much put some zap it here. Right here. Put some zap it there. Put some zap it here. Zap that tooth back down. Went right back where it was. Little crud in there. Trying to find the center of that camera, sorry. So, 036. Get my wire here. What I'm going to do is just go straight down. Let's see if I can pull up my double shot there. There. I'm going to trim this model. Let's see if I can get it to. Alright. I got Anderson Thuller, hello. Regards, hello. So, those are just joining. We are doing a Hilgers Pendulum, the TRex version, and we're about to actually put the, I guess I would call it the TRex arms on here. Let me see if I can get this to center. Okay. So, a TRex again is like a pendulum or Pendex, but with an arm here. Actually, it's got to be a Pendex. It's got to be an expander, or else the arm would be useless. So they can expand first and then distalize after they cut this little wire. So there's a couple ways of doing this. I'm using 036 wire. I'm going to put a little acrylic tag right here. That's going to go into the acrylic. My marker. There it is. I'm going to mark this right where I want it to solder. So hopefully y'all saw that. And you know what? I'm just going to put a little bend on this also. A little hook in the solder never hurt anything. There we go. I'm gonna actually close this down some. I like these pliers, I got a little groove in here, I can close things down. Alright. So that it actually looks like the same piece of wire, honestly. You could put like a little square off or something. I'm going to actually grind on this to give it a little retention to go in this little mechanical retention. See if I can get my little wire bending handpiece here. Alright, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to attach this with a, one thing I got to look for is make sure that another wire, once I get solder on this, that another wire can pass over this solder joint. I'm actually going to move it a little more mesial, right in this little pocket area. There we go. I'm actually going to lay this model holder over just a bit. There we go. I like that. This actually could probably be a little shorter. I kind of like that length. One thing you got to keep an eye out for is I'm going to be using one of these pop screws for the expansion, and I need room. See, it's going to be a very deep pallet, so I think we're going to clear that. We're going to be good. So I'm going to attach this. I'm going to try to attach it using this Zap It stuff. Now, if y'all haven't seen my other retain video, I did a review on this stuff and all the different uses you can use for it. So I'm going to activate that, and as it's setting up in that 3-second window, I'm going to lift this to give it a little room under the acrylic. And after I solder, I'm going to clean off this, pick that off. So, other side. Do my acrylic tag. Or anchor, whatever you want to call it. Flip it to the other side. So I can get this to lay flat like the other side. I'm going to try to make it the same distance. Mark my wire here. Bend it over. Crunch it down. Try to make it pretty small because you're soldering it to a little tiny area. Let me get my metal. No. Still going.
No, I'm videoing.
What, am I done?
Videoing.
No. Say hi, everybody. It's my wife.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You don't want to come help? No? I like embarrassing her. It's fun. Okay. There we go. Hopefully y'all can see that. That is the one component that makes this a TRex. So, so let me solder this real quick. Again, you want to be careful. You do not want to get solder into your sheath over here. You don't want to fill that up with solder. That will be a nightmare to clear out. You'll ruin the band. Have to call the doctor with your tail between your legs going, oh crap, can you send me some new bands? I'd ruined it. So let me get my heat shield here. So I'm going to take some heat shield. I'm going to block that little opening. Actually, I'm just going to block that whole area. And I am also going to block this wire. You don't want to weaken it too bad. Even though they're going to cut it in the future, you don't want to weaken it too bad. There's going to be a lot of pressure on it as it expands the mouth. And as it holds back the pendulum springs. I'm going to protect this tooth. I don't want this tooth crumbling on me while I'm trying to bend a rest for it. I need Steve Zara to make some background music for me. If y'all have been watching my other live streams, he's been a guest on my live stream. Last week was Jay Tyler of Ortho Lab Videos, so be sure and watch that. We had a good time talking about springs and stuff that go in retainers. I like to take my time. Oh, what I was going to say about Steve Zara was he has a music channel where he plays piano and guitar and stuff. So I need to get him to make me some background music. Okay, so I like to take, like I said, I like to take my time, get everything all nice and set, makes the soldering go a lot easier. So I got my torch, I got my solder, so let's get busy. Sorry, I'm trying to get it centered so y'all can see. Move this flame around as much as I can so that get it evenly heated. I may be running out of gas. Alright. Refill this thing. Let's see if that made a difference. Oh yeah, look at that flame. I'm gonna back that off a little bit. I'm getting too hot too fast. I'm gonna use gravity. I hopefully you can't move the camera, sorry. There we go. That's what happens when I'm gonna turn this flame down just a tad. Cool. So what I'm doing is just making sure there is enough solder to hold that in place. There we go. If you may have any questions, I know we're going over an hour. I didn't realize I was going to do that much prepping, or explaining my prepping. But for those that have done pendulums and pendexes before, I'm actually to the point where you would start doing the pendex or pendulum. So I've done the TRex part. I've attached these lines. So let me go clean these real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay. So hopefully hopefully you can see this. Alright, there we go. So I have a soldered bar here. I still have my open sheath there. My open sheath here. There might be a little bit of solder in there. I have to wait till my... If there is, I may have to redo this. I'm still waiting on my steamer to heat up. I have a little trick up my sleeve if that is filled with solder that we can try. Yeah, I think I got solder on it. Probably because I had my flame too high on that. There we go. So there's removing that zap it. Again, I'm going to have acrylic going right here. So I need to remove that zap it. I don't want to get it caught in the acrylic. I'm going to try to pull this. There we go. Ow. Always wear goggles, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. I just got this in yesterday. This is the TMA wire. Titanium molybdenum alloy. It's got... We use this because it has... Aha! Very expensive. Considering you get 5 strands for $34, so you can see it's very. So this is TMA wire. I use 032. This is just really excellent for using for pendulum. You can see it's not shiny. It's actually kind of dull, but very floppy. Very resilient to bending. Let me get an 032 stainless steel for comparison, so you can see it's very dull. This is shiny. You can see exactly how much bendability it has. It goes back to, so if I bend this, it actually maintains a little bit of bend, but if I bend this, it maintains its memory. Alright, so let me bend at least one side of this, and then we'll try to fix that solder that snuck in there, dadgummit. Kind of mad about that. Alright, I'm gonna just start bending. Put a little acrylic hook in there. Now I want it to go here, down. Just like that. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to use my Holly loop forming pliers. This gives it a nice big loop. Some people like to use smaller loops. It's just whatever your doctor's preferences are. So I'm just you can see how it kind of resists being bent. It wants to go back. So your loop is always going to be bigger than your actual pliers you're using. I like to put a little 45-degree angle in there. I think that helps with the arc process. That might be a little much. So I'm going to mark this right there, right at the middle of that sheath opening. And then I'm going to bend this some labs will put, or some doctors will put a little adjustment loop in here, and that way it gives a little option. So I'm going to cut this long. So you see my mark I put there. I'm going to cut it long. And I'm going to try to get this as best as I can. There we go. So I'm going to turn it upside down, slide it in that sheath. There we go. Now I need to do a little bit of bending. You can see from the top down the different angles that it's going. I need to actually bend this more this way, so then that will go that way. There we go. Put back in there. Might have done a little too much. There we go. Actually, I'm going to increase that angle just a tad. This angle. Get in there. Let me put a little bend here. I think that's what's keeping it. There we go. So, as you can see, hopefully, you got your loop. I've picked up this same trick from that same guy, Jason Brown, where I used to work. He keeps it long, and then he can put wax right there. So you don't have to worry about putting wax over here. I honestly think that this loop is a little bit on the big side. I kind of want to make it small, so I'm going to do this again. So it'll be an extra, so you can see a little difference. Again, I'm going to put my acrylic tag. I usually mark it about where the front of this is. I go straight down. And that'll be the back side of my loop. See what I'm going to use to make this loop. Let's use these pliers. I have a little mark that I've notched on here. Let's just count the grooves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. There we go. This is going to be a lot better. I'm just sliding along that 4th groove. There we go. See, now that's a smaller loop. Probably a little bit more comfortable for the patient. And I'm going to shorten this just a tad. So there's some physics involved in this, and you need to get this pretty much. I like to have it running perpendicular with the tooth or parallel with the tooth, so it's just an arm that swings like a wiper. But as you see, it's going to go like this. It's going to kind of intrude. It's going to distalize and intrude, which is a problem with pendulums. So I'm going to bend this again, but I'm going to go ahead and try to build in that little torque. There we go. So now, hopefully you can see this. It kind of goes that direction, which is actually the angle of the band. Let me cut this here. There's my cutters. So if the doctor had drawn adjustment loops, I'd put a tiny little adjustment loop in there. But this doctor's never really asked for adjustment loops. Again, you're thinking of, you got to think of the screw you're going to put in here. So as you're bending these wires, remember, look at that. I'm going to cut this acrylic right here. You see that? So this wire is going to be in the way. So I'm already thinking about the acrylic. I gotta shorten this a little bit. So to shorten it, I'm going to curl it up a little more. So I'm just kind of rolling it up the wire. And so this isn't sticking straight up. I'm going to flatten this down. So the good thing about TMA is you can kind of rebend it and it won't break as easily. There we go. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So I'm just doing little tiny adjustments. Okay, I'm getting closer. So now I want to torque that part in toward the tissue. I'm going to hold down the whole loop and I'm going to push it toward the tissue. So it looks like I need to twist the whole thing toward the tissue. That's a little too much. I can already tell since I curled this up the wire, I made this too long. So I'm going to shorten it some. Build a little curve into this. Looks like that's what it needs. Rebend my acrylic thing here. There we go. Wire management, one of the harder things in the ortho wire bending arena. So let's get, I may adjust it a little bit more. You really need to talk to your doctor, figure out their preferences regarding these things, how they want the loops. You know, some of them like them horizontal in the mouth. I've seen them like that before, which provide a little bit different torque, angle torque. I like this, and the doctor I work for likes this angle. That way it is more of a parallel with the tooth, with that side of the mouth. The horizontal ones will do the same thing. You make them going flat like this, and then bend, curl it up. So there's different angles of that. So that's the string. I don't know what I'm saying. That's the pendulum spring. Or the piece string. Piece. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm getting delirious. I need to drink some water. Okay, so one last tip. Make sure you're always keeping your screw in mind when you're bending these things. So you're keeping clear of this screw. Again, this screw is going to be up high anyway. This is a narrow mouth, but it needs a lot of expansion. It's going to be a really thick acrylic. So I'm going to kind of end it there. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to bend one of these rests, so you can kind of see that all of them are all the same. Again, If you've done a pendulum before but not a TRex, the only difference is this little soldered bar right here on the band, which will allow the doctor to expand first, cut those bars, and then the pendulum spring will take off. So as you can see, this is really an easy appliance to bend once you break it down into its components. Oh, I thought I lost that. Oh man, I'm trying to make this tiny. Okay. And then you can just use your regular old wax and wax it down. And that is a rest. So, what I'm going to do now is, and maybe I'll do a part 2, and it will be, I got to see if I got solder in that. I can't tell yet. So I'm going to bend all 4 of these. I'm going to bend another spring. Those who are Patreon, I'll try to post some pictures. Otherwise, that's basically it. That's your pendulum with your TRex bars attached to it. So I'm going to end it there. I hope y'all this helps somebody, whether you're new to this or you've done a few of these or you've never done one of these. So be sure and ask any questions. The live chat will be over, but you can put some in the comments below and I'll try to answer your questions. So again, if you want to support my channel, I'm at patreon.com/retainerdesigner. You should see a link around here somewhere. Again, check out Jay Tyler's channel and Steve Zara's channel. And then until then, happy bending. Now I'll see if I can figure out how to turn this off. I'll see y'all later.